So this weekend, I ran what's called a Hyrox, and I'm going to tell you about it and some lessons I learned from it. Hi, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick, and like and subscribe if you like the video. If you don't like the video, don't, I guess. Your prerogative. Up to you. What you want to do. It's your thing. Do what you want to do, and I can't help it who you sock it to. Anyways, so this weekend, I ran what's called the Hyrox race. If you don't know what Hyrox is, it is a fitness race, but it instead of like doing like what the Spartan races or the Tough Mudders do, where they're like, we're gonna have you run X number of miles and you'll do these different obstacles as you go through them. They're obstacle course races. This is a fitness race. I don't know how it compares to like a CrossFit competition. It's really not as intense in the sense that anybody can do a Hyrox race, right? Hello, anybody. But it's tough. It's an 8 kilometer run, and every kilometer you do a different workout. So in my division, the men's open, the first workout is 1,000 meter ski erg. For those of you who don't know what a ski erg is, you reach up, you grab these handles, and you pull these ropes down in a skiing motion. You do this for 1,000 meters. And there's a helpful calendar in front of you, or a helpful tracker in front of you that tells you when that 1,000 meters is up. When you've done 1,000 meters, you move on and you run another kilometer, and then you come up to the sled push. You're pushing a sled loaded with 152 kilograms. Now, 152 kilograms, roughly double that for your poundage. You're pushing somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 pounds. 100 pounds. 300 pounds. Somewhere in that neighborhood. I might have that weight wrong. That might be the weight for the men's pro. Anyways, you push somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 pounds of sled. Another kilometer, you do the sled pull. Sled pull, roughly 200 pounds, roughly somewhere around there. Then you run another kilometer. You do what's called broad jump burpees. You do a burpee, you stand up, you jump forward, you do another burpee. 80 meters of that, then another kilometer. Then you do 1,000 meters of a standard rowing machine. And just that's what it sounds like. You get on a row machine and you row for 1,000 meters. Another kilometer, then you do the farmer's carry, but not just any farmer's carry. A farmer's carry carrying 2 kettlebells, each kettlebell weighing 24 kilograms. So again, you're carrying roughly in the neighborhood of 50 pounds on each one. You do these farmer's carries over 200 meters. After the 200-meter farmer's carry, you will run another kilometer. Then you will do walking lunges with a sandbag on your back. Rules are that the sandbag cannot leave your back. You don't have to do it continuously, but the sandbag can't leave your back. The sandbag weighs in, I think, at about 40 pounds, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's 20 kilograms. Then you run another kilometer and you do the final exercise, which is 100 wall ball squats. They're just called wall balls in the race. I call them wall ball squats because each time you throw it up to hit the target, you have to do a below parallel squat and then push back up to hit the target. You don't have to do them in an unbroken chain. You can take rests as you need to, but by that point, there's just not a lot left in the tank. It's just a mindset at that point. So you have all these exercises, and Hyrox is a great experience. It's a lot of fun. I would recommend anyone to do it if they're so inclined into that sort of thing. I'm gonna do one again this December. But I learned a couple of lessons from my first Hyrox, and this is obviously a little bit different than what we typically do, but these lessons are important for sort of broadly speaking, everything. There was another thing I did this weekend that I really drew lessons from. I read a book, or started to, on a plane. I haven't finished it yet, so, bear with me, but it's really good. It's by a Hollywood producer named Will Packer. He's done a bunch of movies. You've seen his stuff. His stuff has starred Kevin Hart. It's starred Tiffany Haddish, all the big actors. And It's called Who Better Than You? The Art of Healthy Arrogance and Dreaming Big. Assuming you can see that with the camera. Now, I am not sponsored by that book. I am not sponsored by Will Packer. I have no idea. I probably wouldn't know Will Packer on the street if I met him. I just don't know him. He's based out of Atlanta. I live in the other coast. I don't really I can't really say who he is, but he's got a good book. I would recommend anybody to read that. And one chapter of the book specifically focuses on essentially don't have a plan B. Because if you have a plan B and you have an exit, you'll take it. Or not, you absolutely will take it. You'll tend to take it. And I thought that was a really interesting point. So I was flying back to California with my girlfriend, and we were talking. I showed her that little chunk, and we were talking about it. And she was commenting because she was usually pretty smart. She was commenting that it's really an interesting concept. It's related to another book that I'm reading and that she's recommended to me. It's called Grit. It's about the people who have it was this kind of the psychological study of the stick-to-itiveness of different people. And I read the book and it was like, don't have a plan B. Because the people who don't have a plan B are the ones who kind of succeed. Now, obviously, we're looking at anecdotal data with that. We don't really have a pure scientific study for that. But I sort of thought of a little addendum to that based on my experience in the Hyrox tent. What they don't tell you at Hyrox is that every time you run the next kilometer, as you come out from the exercise and you go around the corner, there is this big, bright red sign that says medic area. Medic area. It's like the red flashing light. Hey, if you need help, we're right here. Don't worry. We're right here. Don't worry. And I don't know if I saw anybody DQ from the event. There's no limit on how long it can take you. It can take you as long as you want. But you can DQ. You can be disqualified. If you drop the sandbag while you're doing sandbag lunges, that's an automatic disqualification. If you don't do the movement standards correctly, that's an automatic disqualification. There's different things that can happen. And you're adults. Like you're adults living in an adult world. You can just raise your hand and you can tap out. So I thought of an addendum to the whole don't have a plan B. Don't forget to give yourself credit if you have a plan B for when things get tough during plan A, for looking at plan B and saying, not today. I came up with this addendum because every time I went past that medic tent, the thought went through my head, especially after the broad jump burpees, the row, the walking lunges, and the farmer's carry. I could just be done. My family's not going to think less of me. My girlfriend's not going to think less of me. I could just be done. I could just tap out. I could just say, this was too hard. I could just say, I'm done. I am 34 years old. I don't need to do this. I'm done. But every time I found the gut to just keep going past, I kept saying just one more lap. Literally, I saw that medic tent every time I came out of the obstacle, the exercise, and said, this is the time. I'm going to quit. And then I said one more lap. It wasn't a great lap. It wasn't a barn beating lap. But I said, there was the big voice in my head said, quit. And the little voice in my head said, one more lap. I listened to the little voice and I kept going. And I went to the next exercise and I kept going. And I went to the next one. Truth be told, after exercise 2, the sled push, which was much, much harder than I expected, I said no. I'm like, this is too much. I'm too gassed after 2 exercises. There's no way I'm going to finish this. I'm done. And then the little voice just said one more lap. So I did one more lap. I got to the wall balls. You have to do 100, and you have to hit a target, a specific target, for it to count each repetition. I missed the target 3 times before I hit it for the first rep that counted. I got to 5. I had done 8, but I had only was able to count 5 and was gassed. I'm an adult. I could have just raised my hand and said, I'm not going to make it. But I picked the ball up and I did 5 more. And I did 5 more. And I did 5 more. All the way to 100 wall balls. I didn't strut over the finish line. I staggered. I slunk. I crawled. But I finished it. And what I learned was that people won't think less of you for exiting. Hey, you had something happened. You couldn't finish. You realized you didn't train properly. You felt unsafe. Okay, great. No one will think less of you for quitting, but they're gonna think way more of you if you finish. The people who matter. I'm not talking about the people who don't matter. The people like in your life. They'll hold you up if you quit. Happily, gladly. They're not gonna take their love away, but they're gonna look at you much differently when you finish. Anyways, that's my thoughts. Don't take this as advice to do stupid things, but take it as advice for kind of the different things you're doing in life. Just go another lap. Just try one more lap. And you never know. The invitations to exit will always be there. They will always call to you. It will always just look a little bit easier just to kind of be done. Let's just go one more lap. Just do another rep. And who knows? Maybe you'll be crazy like me and you'll decide that you want to do another one of these races because you didn't think you went fast enough and you want to beat the time that you set for yourself now because you're a competitive freak or crazy. One of the two. We have yet to decide. But that's all the time I got for you today. I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Like and subscribe or leave a mean comment. Either way, have a great day.